Figured it out. Is it better now?
No.
No.
God damn it.
It's not as bad as it was before, though.
Okay. Hello. Welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. Before we get started, let me remind you that we are covered by the BIPCOT No Government License, which allows for the reuse and distribution of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That is bipcot.org. This is episode 71, which we haven't named yet because we're not doing the live thing anymore. So
Yeah.
I'll name it
Because we
afterward.
can't. Because Google sucks.
Yep.
Fucking Google.
YouTube. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Freaking. Same. It's the same company, I believe.
I think so.
No.
Yeah.
It's all mucho stupido.
Yep.
Oh, but
Conglomerate Corporation A.
But
So.
the U.S. government is releasing the U.S. military to fight fake news and to protect the integrity of our elections. So
God.
maybe they'll give us back our Google Hangouts at some point.
Yeah.
Probably not, but I mean,
Yeah. I gotta wonder how many people were using it the way that we were,
probably not many. I mean,
Yeah. Maybe we're the reason they stopped supporting it.
hashtag go fuck yourself, NSA guy.
We'd rather not even have it than have to deal with these assholes.
Yeah. So funny. The most professional show on the web.
I am blown away by our professionalism more and more every time.
Me too. Yeah. It should be on our resumes, you guys. Yeah.
Appeared on the most professional podcast in the history of mankind.
Right. It's not a lie. That's in our description. It's part of the description of our show. The fact that it's irony, I mean, has no bearing on it. It fucking says it right there.
It absolutely does say we are the most professional podcast ever in the information, or in the biography of our anchor.
Which is, of course, complete fucking bullshit, but whatever.
Tomato. I mean,
Yeah. Let's start talking definitions. We get to define professional because
and it's
language
it
is fluid.
It says we are, and then the most professional podcast ever is written in the SpongeBob font.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But speaking of that in Anchor, we have passed 1,000 total views.
Nice.
On our Anchor, and that's just that is since the end of April. So
Get the nipple tassels, folks. It's time to party.
Like right at 5 months or something like that. 83% from the US, 10% from Canada, and we got 1% from Greece, Japan, and Australia.
Japan.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hi to people in Japan.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
how
we've
happened.
got a Liberty friend or two over in Japan. One is teaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Graham Smith, voluntary Japan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's Nikki in Australia.
Mexico, or Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, Romania, and Barbados all have just under 1%.
Nice. Nice. I can account for like half that list on my friends list as far as I know. My friends all over the world. I'm like, Facebook is a shit show, but I do love that about it. I'm connected to people all over the fucking planet.
True.
We are an internationally known professional podcast.
That's right.
We are officially internationally known. So in your face, CNN.
That's right.
Oop, that I didn't mean to do.
Watch your back, PewDiePie. We're coming for your spot.
Yep. Unlike them, we're not hashtag fake news.
Right.
Yeah. Ha.
Unlike Fox, we've never sued for the right to lie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To lie.
We might do it on accident every once in a while, but we mean well.
We're just using alternative facts. It's okay.
Alternative facts, yeah.
Right.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Yep. There's no such thing as subjective or objective. Yeah.
If everything's subjective, well, then we are definitely on top of shit, man.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well, I guess since I was going to start with another article, but since we're on this subject,
all right.
Article from Bloomberg: U.S. unleashes military to fight fake news and disinformation.
Boy, does that not sound communist at all.
What could possibly go wrong?
Never in the history of the world has that kind of a thing ever not.
Nations never seize control of the propaganda narrative to sway their citizens. I've never heard of such a thing.
I mean, I'll tell you one thing I know for sure. Hitler certainly didn't do it. So
no, neither did Castro and neither did Mao.
Yeah. Hashtag laughs and Joseph Goebbels.
Yeah.
There's our podcast episode title right there.
Laughs and Goebbels.
Yes.
Laughs and Goebbels. Okay.
Yep.
I'll have to write that down.
Yep.
I can't write it down.
We are simply telling what the truth is, and we simply need to make sure that that everyone hears it.
Yes. Yeah. And doesn't question it. Yeah. And we'll just shoot the ones who do, and then nobody else will.
Yeah. Okay. So, fake news and social media posts are as much as a threat to U.S. security
Take two.
Cut. Clip. Okay. Take two.
Yeah.
All right. Fake news and social media posts are such a threat to U.S. security that the Defense Department is launching a project to repel, quote, large-scale automated disinformation attacks, as the top Republican in Congress blocks efforts to protect the integrity of the elections.
What is an automated? What?
Okay, large-scale automated disinformation attacks.
So, like, fake news spam is what they're claiming they're fighting?
I don't...
If the Babylon Bee goes away, I'm fucking rioting.
Yeah, me too. Ruth Koreans for everybody if they take down the Babylon Bee.
Oh, he is always on point, too. It's just fucking...
Oh, my God, and their feud with Snopes is just fucking entertainment for days.
And you see the one the other day from Babylon Bee about the Antifa attacking the kids' lemonade stand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Capitalist swine, filthy pig, and like the crowd dispersed when the 7-year-old said, "I'm gonna go get my dad."
I fucking love the Bee, man. The Bee is always, like Andrew said, right on point.
Yes.
Okay. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, wants custom software that can unearth fakes hidden among the 500,000 stories, photos, videos, and audio clips. If successful, the system, after 4 years of trials, may expand to detect malicious intent and prevent viral fake news from polarizing society. Okay, hold on. Wait, hold on. Just take deep breath. Take deep breath. Okay. Quote. A decade ago, today's state of the art would have registered as sci-fi. That's how fast improvements have come, said Andrew Grotto at the Center for International Security at Stanford University. Quote, there is no reason to think the pace of innovation will slow anytime. U.S. officials have been working on plans to prevent outside hackers from flooding social media channels with false information ahead of the 2020 election.
Right, they can't let outsiders do it because that's competition for them, the insiders.
The drive has been hindered by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's refusal to consider election security legislation. Critics have labeled him, quote, Moscow Mitch, saying he left meddling by Russia promoting his retort of, quote, modern-day McCarthyism.
Dude, I have fucking White Russian coming out of my nose from Moscow Mitch.
That's ironic irony.
It is.
Oh my god. So I just
Ow.
I mean I'm not an expert in biology or anything, but I'm pretty sure that's not how you're supposed to consume those.
Thank you, Professor.
Hashtag
Lord.
don't tell her what to do.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what to
Don't
do.
tell me how to live my life.
I will do no shots all day.
I'm snorting this bitch, baby. Ow.
I just so they're accusing
you snort the other White Russian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's completely dead. It's not Russian though. It's I mean
It's Colombian.
yeah, it's Colombian. It's a white Colombian that you snort.
Yeah. Fine China.
Hashtag Contra.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean
White
so
CIA. Really?
they're saying that he's clearly in cahoots with Russia because he opposes military control of the media.
Yes.
No, he.
Yes.
Wait.
He's blocking. Okay, Mitch McConnell is quote blocking legislation by not bringing it up. So that's why they're calling him Moscow Mitch, because he totally must be a Russian agent, because he doesn't want military control of media.
This is what happens when you send your kids to school.
But
public
Trump is a
government
fascist.
schools,
Trump is a fascist. Stop.
to get their fucking history knowledge. Okay, this is what happens when people don't know history. You get huge steaming piles of irony exactly like this.
Yeah.
Because seriously,
Because as we all know, in Soviet Russia, it was all about the truth. And
yeah. So wait, this guy opposes shit that Russia's fucking famous for. So clearly he's in cahoots with
Yes.
Russia. Right.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
because that is how the political narrative works in America now.
Yeah,
is-
because people don't fucking know history. I mean, my God. People have the attention span of a fucking fruit fly. I swear to God.
it's
This is ridiculous.
it's just the irony, and it just keeps happening. These articles like this, you just keep hearing the irony get worse and worse as the political left, in particular in America, continues to go, oh, you're in cahoots with the Russians, as people want freedom of the press. You're in cahoots with Russia because you want a free market. You're in every time you want freedom, you must be in cahoots with Russia. If Russia
Like
was
they could not
They
could not be more fucking backward if they tried. Like if they were fucking literally trying to be as fucking wrong
Okay,
as they could be, they
these-
couldn't be this wrong.
The people that called Trump a fascist are angry that the military doesn't have control of the media.
Yeah, there's another steaming
Let
pile of
that
irony.
sink in for a second.
Oh, I know.
Okay, quote, the risk
This
factor
isn't
is
helping the migraine that I've had all fucking day.
how,
I'm just saying.
how
I can't
dare
twist my brain into this fucking pretzel to
how,
understand these people.
how dare you want people to be able to criticize the government at will, you Nazi?
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. Quote, the risk factor is social media being abused and used to influence the elections. Syracuse University Assistant Professor of Communications Jennifer Gregel said in a telephone interview, quote, it's really interesting that DARPA is trying to create these detection systems, but good luck is what I say. It won't be anywhere near perfect until there's legislative oversight. There's a huge gap, and that's a concern.
You know what kills me? Is that they're basically admitting that the American voter's a fucking retard that refuses to do their own research on anything. Because if they trusted the American voter, if they trusted the education they are providing to the American voter, they wouldn't have any fucking problem with fake news being spread around because people would be able to see through it. But they know that their education's shit. They know that they're churning out mindless fucking drones, and they don't want people being influenced by anyone but them.
Oh yeah. And it's that, I mean, that's the thing. You remember when George Orwell in 1984 wrote about doublespeak, right? Where, war is peace, freedom is slavery. That is exactly what we've actually reached at this point.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this says, is we have actually reached a point that doublespeak is well and truly a thing.
Yeah, well, it's not surprising when you have people like Hillary Clinton saying that the moral of the story with 1984 is that government needs more power. Do you remember that?
Yeah, people should trust their government.
Yeah, people should trust the government. That's the moral. It's like, what? Did you read 1984? I feel like you didn't actually read
the same book that I read. Yeah, I don't think you fucking picked up on the. Yeah.
And the funny thing is that even extreme leftists were laughing about that quote because they even were like, no.
Yeah.
It's kind of exactly the opposite, actually.
Even if I were a statist, I would if I were a statist, I would still believe that quote alone is enough to disqualify her from any kind of fucking public office. You know?
Yes.
How can you be so oblivious and still think you should run other people's lives?
I think the moral of this story of where a man is tortured until he agrees that 2 + 2 is 5 is that the people who tortured him to say 2 + 2 is 5 need to be trusted more.
Yeah, he should have just trusted them and they wouldn't have had to torture him.
And
yeah.
But she's won the victory over herself. She loves Big Brother.
Hey.
It's okay. Okay, two more quick paragraphs. Okay, quote, mirroring the rise in digital imagery is the associated ability for even relatively unskilled users to manipulate and distort the message of visual media, according to the agency's website. Quote, while many manipulators are benign, performed for fun or even for artistic value, others are for advertising purposes such as propaganda and misinformation campaigns. With a 4-year project scale for Semaphore, that's the program, the next election will come and gone before the system is operational. Quote, this timeline is too slow, and I wonder if it's a bit of PR, Goebbels said. Quote, educating the public on media literacy along with legislation is what's important, but elected officials lack motivation themselves for change, and there's a conflict of interest as they are using these platforms to get elected.
So, by all means, give everyone that's in power who you just said intentionally wants to manipulate people to stay in power, give them more power to control what people hear.
Yeah, let's put guns behind it, like really obvious guns. Let's put the military on it.
Because the military is, noted for its being committed to open and honest journalism. I mean, that's a well-known thing.
Right. Yeah.
Sweet Jesus. I mean, there's story after story from history, not only of governments being the leaders in propaganda, but it's also, there are stories from history of military people hating journalists because they tell the truth. There's that famous story from the Civil War when that one reporter from, I think it was the Times, it might have been the Post, I don't remember, showed up, and that Union general looked at him and said, really? I'd sooner see the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I also say, I've been in the military and I met not one person in there that I would consider qualified to determine whether a news article is real news or fake news.
Okay. In DARPA jargon, the aim is to, and I quote, automatically detect, attribute, and characterize falsified multi-model media to defend against large-scale automated disinformation attacks.
I love that they keep throwing automated in there so that they can try and imply that it's bots.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's not how they're going to be fucking using it. You know it's not.
No.
Yeah. Because, government always sticks within the bounds of the laws that are supposed to bind it.
To adequately test the program, the Pentagon has to spike its array of 500,000 test stories with 5,000 convincing fakes, some of which could conceivably make their way to the, quote, live news stream, although the mainstream media has not exactly had trouble generating false news stories on its own in recent weeks.
Well, I mean, it's like what's her face, that actress who bought an illegal black market THC vape that blew up on her and caused serious issues to her lungs, and she posted all over Instagram and Twitter and things about it, and all anti-vaping, and ignored the fact that it wasn't actually a legit vape or anything that had caused her harm, and it certainly wasn't a nicotine one. It was a THC one, and to avoid a felony, she just started turning into a vocal anti-vapor.
Right.
But you can definitely trust.
Right. There's never anything more to the story. Right.
Yeah. But no. These people are the people who get to determine what is real and what's not. I'm sure that it's never going to go badly.
Right.
This
is why more people now than ever need to buy my fucking book.
Linked in the comments below.
Yes. A critical thinking workbook.
Yeah, like of all people I want in control of my essentially what is education these days, right? All media is a form of education.
Yeah.
Right. So the government is using the military to control the education and thus control the opinion of the people.
Yep.
As if school teachers weren't doing enough to spread collectivism. Now
authoritarianism.
They want the media.
Yeah, and again,
to become
as
part
if
of that program
that has ever historically been
abuse.
For the better. I mean, granted, it didn't work for at least 100 countries over the course of the past 1,000 years, but I'm sure this time, because they have they promise they have your best interests at heart. This time,
right? It'll be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people still don't see how the government-citizen relationship is a fucking abusive relationship. People have this Stockholm syndrome just like abuse victims do, and they don't realize they're never going to change their ways. They're never going to get better. They're never going to treat you better. It's time to fucking get out because this isn't healthy for you.
Oh, we just have to vote the right people in power, and the right people in power are the ones that the blue checked media says I should support.
Yeah,
but what I always say is anybody who wants power isn't the person who should have it.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree completely. If we're gonna have a president, I want it to be the person that fights, kicking and screaming, and has to be dragged into that office.
Yep.
There
have been some phenomenal statesmen who in the United States history who absolutely did not want to be politicians at all.
Right.
Actually, like guys like David Crockett really didn't want
David Crockett,
to be senators. They didn't want, but they were like, okay, well, I guess if you guys really think so, but I don't really want to do this. And then he really looked out for the best interests of his constituents and really tried because he was like, well, that's why I'm here. And it's not like I want to be here. And I certainly don't want to be here any longer than I have to be. And then when he gets voted out, he's like, all right, awesome, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and head to Texas.
I'm taking my ass to Texas, yo.
Yeah, you all go to hell. I'll go to Texas, is what he said. So, although it didn't work out great for him, because, he then found himself at the Alamo, and that really didn't go well. But up until that point.
Right.
So.
But you know what this all reminds me of? Is, in most of these statist moves like this, is that scene in B Movie when he's trying to get out the window that's closed, and he's like, maybe this time, and he just keeps bouncing off of the window. That's what this is.
Yeah,
that's what statism is in its totality. It's just bouncing off of a closed window, thinking, well, maybe this time it'll be open.
Yeah.
It's, if we just vote harder, if we just, it's like, well, maybe if it hasn't worked historically having the military in charge of media, but maybe this time it'll work. And somehow that isn't what everybody else has said repeatedly over the centuries. Well, this time it'll work. This time it'll be better.
Yeah.
This time.
We just need to reform.
And it blows my mind how people can't see this slide into dystopia that we're taking right now. This entire country is headed into fucking dystopian state. And why can't more people fucking see that?
Because it's if Anarchy had a 13-year, 15,000-hour mandatory multi-generational program, everyone
$100,000. Yeah.
Everyone would be anarchist.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Everyone would be an anarchist at that point, but it's not like if you're teaching everyone to think for themselves, they're not all going to agree with what you're doing. That's the thing. That's why only totalitarian things can do things like that, because they're manipulating people into perpetuating it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you actually tried to tell people, think for yourself, have alternative ideas, don't believe this just because I said it, things like that, then eventually people are going to start disagreeing and they're going to shut it down, and it's never going to be very long lasting. It's never going to stick around very long.
Which is why I wrote my book. We've come full circle.
All right, let's move on to something. I don't know. I don't want to call it more funny because it's not more funny, but you'll laugh.
Entertaining.
Man, 75 tells Belton, this is Belton, North Carolina, Belton officer to close the bathroom door, then gets a $275 fine.
Yeah.
For yelling at him to not take a piss with the door wide open in a cafe.
Oh no! Yeah. He took a shit and then left the door open.
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of a human being? A cop. All right.
But that's what I called it in the when I was writing things out, I called it, bad manners bludgy.
Mm-hmm.
So he was fired for this. Thankfully, he was fired for this. But 75-year-old man who has an artificial leg and said he's hard of hearing was cited for disorderly conduct after he yelled at a police officer to close the bathroom door after the officer used the restroom in a Belton restaurant. Part of Tuesday's incident was captured on video by a bystander who was told by the officer to stop filming the incident. Bobby Ray Phillips, a regular at the Standpipe Family Restaurant, said he was enjoying his grilled chicken, cabbage, and cornbread on Tuesday afternoon when Belton Police Corporal Thaddeus Shockley went to the restroom, used it, and left the door open. Shockley wrote an incident report that Phillips, quote, yelled at him in a boisterous manner after he left the restaurant, quote, "You're not going to shut the door." Shockey said his report that he asked Phillips for identification after Phillips made another comment about the bathroom door. Quote, "All I said was close the bathroom door," Phillips said in an interview from his home on Wednesday. "I said, quote, you left the door open. I'm eating here. Leave that sitting there, right?" Shockey in his report said Phillips declined to show his ID and also declined to go outside. Shockey wrote that he attempted to assist Phillips, but he held onto the chair and became, quote, defiant.
Yeah,
So
because
this
you're a
cop-
power-tripping piece of fucking garbage.
So this cop literally thinks his shit doesn't stink.
Yes. Yes. Phillips said he was loud, and he always is due to hearing difficulties, but he does not believe he was aggressive or that did anything to warrant being put in handcuffs or being
No.
ticketed. He said he told the
No.
officer he could not hear and asked him to write down his questions. Phillips said he has an artificial leg, makes it difficult to stand with his hands free and impossible with them restrained. He said the mobility challenge are what led him to take the first table in the restaurant, which is near the bathrooms at the entrance. And the 12-second video taken by the restaurant patron Cindy Young, Shockley can be seen interacting with Phillips using the word, quote, handcuff, before turning to the young man saying, "Ma'am, I need to take your phone from you?" Young
This
said
is a
no.
huge
Young said no
American-
and shut off her phone. Young said she was intimidated by the officer and didn't want to be arrested or have her phone seized.
She should be suing that cop
Under
for civil
Americans
rights
with
violations.
Disabilities Act. Yeah. Yeah.
That-
Under the
well,
Americans
no,
with
not-
Disabilities Act.
Well, no, that's the guy. I'm saying the one who was videotaping because he
Oh,
told
yeah.
her to shut off her phone and threatened to take it away from her, which is completely illegal. Like, it's actually a codified federal law that you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
So she should be
chief
sued.
the chief actually backsaid. Shockley's body camera was not turned on during the incident, said Sergeant Anthony Smith, a Belton officer who arrived when Shockley and Phillips were outside. Chief Young says it's legal for citizens to video or take photographs of officers doing their jobs as long as the recording does not interfere with the officer's job. An ordinance in Belton says that people have to be at least 20 feet away from an officer who's trying to make an arrest. So Phillips said he intends to pay the $275 or $257 citation.
Why?
Why?
Shockley in the
pay that?
report said the restaurant declined to put Phillips on trespass notice. The restaurant declined to comment about the incident.
My response to that fine would be, how about you suck my fucking dick?
Yeah.
No, I'm not paying
A couple
you.
of middle fingers. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
fuck you.
I would be
I did
even less
nothing
nice
wrong.
about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was arrested, or sorry, the cop was fired.
Good.
And then let's see, terminated August 23rd. So this is August 20th. On the 23rd, he was fired for violating agency policy. And he was not fired until after the news stories came out.
Yep, and had nobody videotaped it, had there been no proof,
Yep.
he would have kept his job. That guy would have been fined.
Yeah.
And nothing would have ever happened to that cop for doing it, which is why you always fucking videotape cops.
Yep.
And I gotta wonder if this guy didn't fucking walk around with a badge of authority on his chest, how would he have reacted to that situation?
Yep.
The old man yells, "Close the door, I'm eating here." And the normal person goes, "Oh shit, sorry, my bad," and shuts the door. You know what I mean? But
Yep.
give that person a fucking 10 star on their chest, and all of a sudden you don't get to say anything to them ever about
Yep.
any of their behavior.
Yeah, and it's like we can go into the whole bad manners thing and all the other stuff, but what it really comes down to is this is a 75-year-old man with a fake leg and a hard of hearing, and you're going to handcuff him, drag him outside, harass him, fine him because he told you to close the fucking bathroom door because you got shitty manners?
Yeah. Because
Like
you went in there and you dropped a fucking ball
carrying a badge?
and it stinks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fucking restaurant. It's not even like this is like a fucking auto garage or something.
Nobody wants
This
to
is a
smell your
restaurant.
fucking bowel movement while they're eating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basic fucking human decency 101.
This dude is like a Farva. That's what he is. He's Rod
Mhm.
Farva.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the same caliber of
I just
cop.
watched that movie not long ago.
This is the same caliber of cop that we discussed, the one in Seattle or in Bellevue or whatever it was, where the guy took the office chair, put it into his cruiser, drove over to the guy's work and sat in front of the guy's work waiting for an apology.
Because he
Yeah.
disrespected me.
Same fucking caliber of cop.
Mhm.
Yep. Exactly.
So,
Because the bottom line is people who are decent human beings do not become police officers.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the long and the short of it, isn't it?
If you were decent, you wouldn't want to enact physical violence against peaceful people. So you would never even be a cop in the first place. ACAB.
Right.
Yep. And always be recording.
Always.
Yep.
Always record.
So, speaking of shitty cops who enforce stupid fucking laws, this is the one that's gonna hurt. Grieving dad jailed for repeatedly criticizing court system in Macomb County. This is out of Michigan.
What a surprise! It would be Michigan.
He lost a custody battle. Then his son lost his life. He blames the court system. He voiced his strong opinion on social media, and the next thing he knew, he was locked in jail. Quote, he was so full of life, said Deborah Vanderhan of her grandson. I'm trying not to cry. On September 22nd, it will be the 2-year anniversary of the day Deborah Vanderhagen's son, Killian, lost his life. She believes her son, Jonathan, is justified in feeling that the court cost her grandson his life. He died in the custody of his mom after her son asked for sole custody. Quote, his lawyer said something is going to happen to his child. You need to get him away from her mother. There are too many red flags. And the judge said, oh, that's in the past.
Yeah.
The police report filed after 2-year-old Killian died shows he had previous medical condition. Investigators did not believe that there was evidence Killian's mother was responsible. His dad felt otherwise and repeatedly posted criticism of the judge who presided over the case and friend of the court on his Facebook page. Judge Rachel Rancillo saw the post, many of which were publicly targeted her. She apparently felt uncomfortable and possibly threatened. She did not hear the custody hearing, which was handled by a court referee. The Macomb County Sheriff's Office responded and found he criticized what Judge Rachel Rancillo pinned on her Pinterest as his opinion inappropriate, posted videos saying he feels she and others responsible for Killian's death, and blamed the court system for his loss. The investigative report also says at no time did he threaten or harm or violence. Still, he was charged with malicious use of telecommunication services and released on bond. He then made more
First Amendment.
Yeah, and he then made more posts, such as the one that reads, quote, data back to dig in, and you best believe I'm going to dig up all the skeletons in this court's closet. A judge ruled he violated his bond conditions. He is now in jail on a $500,000 bond.
But we should put the military in charge of who gets to say what.
That's what I was just thinking.
Because how could this ever go wrong? Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
what a coincidence.
His mom says she feels he was simply exercising his right to free speech.
Because he was.
Quote, he just wants justice. He don't want to kill anybody. He don't want anybody physically hurt. He wants them to acknowledge what they've done and get justice, said Deborah Vanderhagen. A jury trial is scheduled for September 13th.
And if that jury has the tiniest iota of objectivity, and they probably won't, but if they do, they will not find him guilty.
No, hell no. Hell no. Everybody has a right to say what they fucking want to say. I mean, malicious use of telecommunications equipment. What the fuck?
Yeah. Because he criticized that. How dare you not respect our authority?
If there were like a malicious use of telecommunications equipment thing, it would be like dudes aggressively sending dick pics to women who didn't want them, or
which is now illegal in Texas,
right? Or it would be like, doxing people and trying to get them physically hurt and shit like that. That's not what this dude is doing. He's just putting the truth as he sees it out there,
okay,
and pointing the finger at who he feels is to blame.
Okay, a separate article says, let's see. Jonathan Vanderhagen, 35, was arrested and jailed July 11th for posting comments and images about Circuit Judge Rachel Rancillo related to his late son Killian, who died at 21 months in September 2017 while under the care of his mother. Rancillo filed a police complaint against Vanderhagen. He posted 10% of his $10,000 bond, but was thrown back in jail July 24th when Judge Sebastian Lucido of the 41B District Court raised his bond to $500,000 because Vanderhagen posted additional items that the judge deemed in violation of his bond conditions. Lucido said that while the new postings weren't direct threats, they violated his condition of no direct or indirect contact. Quote, though he likes to hint around the fringes of it, in my opinion, they are threatening nature and the no contact order was put in place.
So because of somebody's subjective feelings, he gets to be in jail because
Yes.
they didn't like what he said.
Because the people who don't like what he said are the ones in power. You know, what's that
Exactly.
saying that if you want to know
Who
who it
rules
is,
you, find out who it is you're not allowed to criticize.
Yep, exactly. And that's what you see with courts again and again
And again and again. Yep.
is people criticize the court, they criticize the police, they criticize the judges, and then they wind up in prison because they said hurtful, mean things about the judges.
Assistant Macomb prosecutor Dan Durbin told the judge 2 new posts should be considered in light of prior posts that resulted in his arrest. Quote, he talks about big things happening behind the scenes, Durbin said in court, referring to repostings. Quote, we are God's soldiers, and then he has posts that say Judgment Day. Durbin said the new post constitutes a, quote, continued attempt to try to intimidate and harass and maliciously use a telecommunications device.
Maybe he was just talking about suing the fuck out of them.
Yeah, suing you and exposing that you're all corrupt pieces of shit, which you pretty clearly are because you just threw someone in jail for criticizing you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also this article points out that he has no record. He has no police record before this.
Right.
But
He's
they're gonna throw him
literally
in
in jail for speech.
Yes.
I mean, can you imagine an actual like Law and Order episode of that? That guy said mean, hurtful things.
Yeah.
Like, that's... you want to talk about the feelsy police, like that right there. And the irony is that the exact same people who will endlessly complain about the leftists and their feelsy police and wanting to criminalize free speech will also support this move because how dare you criticize Muffin Blue Line?
Right. Yeah.
Like they worship them so hard. They worship their masters so hard.
Yeah.
And that, kids, is what we call cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. On July 7th, he wrote, quote, I won't stop till changes are made, people are held accountable, careers are ended, and these kids get the justice they deserve.
Yeah.
Well, you dared to suggest that the justice of the peace was not enacting justice and was in the wrong. Therefore, nope, you can't be trusted.
You threatened my career with exposure, and that makes you a violent criminal. You're going to prison.
And if the local journalist had a shred of actual journalistic integrity, they would go, "Why are they so scared of him digging in?"
And they would start digging.
Let's see. Killian was born in December 2015, and Vanderhagen and the mother broke up May 2017. The mother got custody, and Vanderhagen was awarded visitation. Vanderhagen in July 2017 filed a motion for full custody, claiming the mother was denying him visitation and failing to take Killian to his medical appointments and therapy as required because he was born with hydrocephalus.
Hydrocephaly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's water on the
water
brain.
in the brain.
Yeah, Vanderhagen was awarded joint custody, on August 28th, and by that time the mother moved to Davidson near Flint. About 3 weeks later, September 19th, Vanderhagen filed for sole legal and physical custody, accusing the mother of more medical neglect when Killian was under her care. The case was scheduled to go in front of Russillo on October 3rd, but Killian died September 22nd.
So they're saying that there's no evidence that she was at fault. So he was saying she's not making sure that he gets taken care of the way he needs to because he's sick. He has a condition that can kill him if it's not treated, and she's not getting it treated. And then she didn't get it treated, and then he died. And then the court said, oh, but I mean, there's no way to prove that it was her fault.
Yeah.
But there's a way to prove that he's threatening them by telling the truth about what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's not a double standard or anything.
But, I mean, what a shocker that the judge involved is a female judge.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the way they always are. That is the way they always are.
Judges are agents of the state. They have no bias. They are objective. That is their job. So naturally, that is exactly what they do. Yeah. Because trust your fucking government.
There was a picture of her in that second article, and her hair is about 3 inches longer than a Karen, so she's definitely close.
It's, oh, God. And that's the thing. Like, I saw that with my own custody hearing with my oldest daughter, where her mother has been gone since she was 2 months old, and still the best I could do was sole placement but joint custody. Yeah. And I'm like, she's literally in jail right now for grand theft auto, and she's lost custody of 3 other children, and she's not here, but you still want to say that no, she still gets any rights?
Your ex sounds a lot like my ex-husband's ex.
Oh yeah, she's popped out 5 children with 5 different guys, and either the guys or the state have custody of all of them.
Yep.
Except me, I have joint because I had a female judge.
Yep. Yeah. That's the way it goes,
Yeah.
The look on my attorney's face when that was the ruling, he was like, "Are you serious? What?
Yeah.
She's going to prison." What?
Yeah, she's obviously such a good decision maker. Let's make sure she still gets to make decisions in her daughter's life.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's just preposterous.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
I've run into the opposite with male judges. I run into the same where they ignore obvious bullshit from my ex-husband. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? Because it's a male judge that time. So,
and they're so impartial. They're always just completely, objective and
yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, since we're on the subject, again, another perfect transition because we are total professionals.
The most professionals.
New Orleans magistrates get a cut of the fines and bail money.
Yeah. Again, what could fucking go wrong?
There's no way that would ever incentivize anything, ever.
New Orleans magistrates who fund their own courts using a cut of the fines and bail they order defendants to pay have a financial conflict of interest and violate defendants' due process rights, the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in not 1 but 2 federal cases.
You think?
These decisions follow a pair of federal rulings from a year ago in which 2 judges from the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Louisiana ordered New Orleans magistrates to stop jailing defendants who couldn't afford to pay fees or upfront bail costs. New Orleans Parish Magistrate Henry Cantrell was accused of typically setting a minimum bail of $2,500 for defendants and threatening defense attorneys who sought bail reductions. One defendant sat in jail for 2 weeks trying to collect the money. A second defendant was unable to pay bail and stayed in jail for more than a month before being freed. It just so happened that Cantrell's court got a chunk of any fines and bail money it collected. The court used the money to fund its operations.
Jeez.
Oh my God. That's yeah, I mean they don't call NOLA the Big Easy for nothing. I'm just gonna point out.
Yeah. Last year, Cantrell told the federal courts he had changed these practices and was no longer simply demanding large bail amounts that defendants couldn't pay. But he also appealed last year's rulings, asking the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to rule that setting the bail amounts and also funding the court with bail proceeds did not violate the due process rights of defendants.
Bullshit. This guy's a judge. Good
Yes.
Lord.
Yes.
That should scare the shit out of anyone who ever has to step inside a fucking courtroom.
If this is an exemplary of the South of America, the South part of America, I don't know what is. That right there.
This is some My Cousin Vinny bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
On Thursday, a three-judge panel of the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals flatly rejected Cantrell's request. In a 14-page ruling, the judges explained that if the magistrate needs bail money to fund the court system, he is incentivized to extract bail money from defendants.
And this guy's still a sitting judge. They didn't disrobe him for this.
He's still a sitting judge, and it's still happening because he appealed.
Just for making that argument, he should be disqualified from the fucking bench.
While Cantrell didn't pocket the money himself, these bail bonds paid for up to a quarter of some courts' budgets. Judge Greg Costa wrote Thursday's decision affirming the lower court's ruling on bail. Quote, Judge Cantrell has a direct and personal interest in the fiscal health of the public institutions that benefits from the fees his court generates and that he also helps allocate.
Well, and not only that, but to say that he doesn't directly pocket it is kind of disingenuous, because if it's paying for the budgets of the courts,
where does his pay come from?
Yeah, where do you think
25% of the court costs come from these people's money that he has that he helps allocate?
Yeah. So when you look at a budget statement, where do you think the pay for the people who work at the place falls? Do you think that it falls off of that budget, or do you think it's part of that budget? Let's think about this for a minute. So no,
and this guy gets to decide who gets paid what. So, if he knows he's got more money coming in from bonds, he can give himself a fucking raise. And I mean, it's basically money laundering.
It is
essentially. Yeah.
It's blatant. Yeah. And that's Southern justice right there.
Yeah. Yep. This ruling focused specifically on the magistrates' demands of cash bail and their financial stake in making people pay. Last Friday, a separate Fifth Circuit Court panel ruled that these same magistrates also have a conflict of interest when determining whether a defendant can afford to pay the fines and fees. This decision noted that when the collection of fines and fees goes down, it directly impacts the court's operations, causing cuts in services and salaries. The magistrates then responded by trying to increase the collection of fines and fees to keep the courts operating.
Gee, what a surprise. Who could have ever guessed that would be the result?
Yeah.
You know what we need? We need DARPA to get involved in this and censor this because it has to be fake news, right?
Yeah. Literally anybody else does this kind of bullshit and it's fucking money laundering and racketeering. Literally anybody else does it.
It's fucking embezzlement in corporate America. That would be called embezzlement and you would go to prison for it.
Yeah.
And
here's this is the best part. This is the best part. Essentially, New Orleans funding its courts on the back of the defendants that appear before the court is a huge problem. If the courts don't get the money from the defendants, it won't be able to function. Costa bluntly notes toward the end of the ruling that the obvious solution to the conflict of interest is not to send these fees directly to judicial expense fund. Louisiana state law does not require the courts to be funded in this fashion.
There was actually, so there wasn't even a requirement for them to. They made that decision to do it that way.
Yes.
I mean, I think the courts not being able to function sounds like a pretty good fucking solution.
Well, yeah, it does. It sounds wonderful, actually, but I mean, are you fucking? But again, that's one of those things that would never fly. And I don't care how prejudiced I'm sounding. It's true. Having lived on both sides of the Mason-Dixon line, that would never fly in the northern part of the United States, ever. None of that would ever fly. But as soon as you get into the South, because they will dry hump the legs of government so
It's
hard.
kangaroo courts as far as the
Yeah.
eye can see.
They are more than happy to do things like that all day.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
And
I know. It leaves you kind of speechless, doesn't it?
I am really like, I'm never speechless, but this kind of thing, it's just like, how did they think it was okay in the first place?
How did you think you were going to get away with this? What?
Yeah. Who thought this was a good and righteous and law-abiding idea?
How could it ever go wrong?
Yes.
Like,
I mean,
we're like, it's literal extortion.
Yeah.
It's literal extortion. Like, oh, well, you did something we don't like. We're going to make you pay for bail, and then we're going to keep a percentage of the bail money here in the court.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the exact same thing. And the thing is it's the exact same thing as a civil asset forfeiture.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing where, there's no way that could ever incentivize people to find criminals everywhere and manufacture them if necessary and drive costs up because, well, if I get to take, if this drug dealer I can catch, I get to take his Lamborghini.
Right.
But of course, there's no way that's ever going to encourage people to act in any other than the most upright of fashions.
Yeah, it's not like there's
departments...
enough of this happening for us to mention it almost every fucking episode for the past 2.5 years.
And it's not like there was an article from a big time news source in 2015 talking about how the police through civil asset forfeiture took more from people without a conviction than fucking burglars did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to emphasize that's without a conviction. And it's the same thing as bail money. That is without a conviction. You have been accused, and that is it.
Yes,
right. You haven't been convicted of anything.
You're not guilty of anything.
Right.
Right? I mean, you're not even...
Yeah, this is all happening during the presumed innocent period of your, interaction with the courts, with law enforcement in the courts.
You haven't been found guilty of anything, but we're going to charge you $100,000 to let you go free, and then we're going to keep a percentage of that to help run this court.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, because we believe that your car was involved in that, we're going to have to go ahead and confiscate your car too.
Yeah.
Even though you haven't been convicted of anything yet, and
still your house and your bank account
and are still allegedly innocent until proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna take all these things from you, just in case.
Yeah, even if you get proven innocent, good luck getting your shit back.
Yeah,
because we already spent it.
If you have the money to fight it in court.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. If you have to be able to fight it in court.
And what's insane is I don't know if you guys remember the like Money Mutual and Cash Advance and stuff, the Montel Williams commercials. You remember what happened with that company where it turned out that they were intentionally defrauding millions of people and like hiding what they were actually going to do, and they were basically charging people, like if you took out a $300 loan from them, you'd wind up paying $900 and something back. And they wouldn't tell you and blah, blah. Anyway,
sounds like student loans.
Yeah, but I actually work in that industry now, and the industry standards are nothing like what this guy pulled. They really aren't. But even after he was arrested over it, of defrauding 1.5 million people to the tune of $2.9 billion with a B dollars.
Holy shit.
after he was arrested for that, it still took them, because he was rich and the rich get to play by different rules, it still took them almost 5 years to start taking his property after his conviction to pay for the $2.9 billion fine that he had to pay.
Right. Yeah,
Because
but
he's rich.
poor people get to sit in prison until their family and friends manage to scrape together a $2,500 bond.
Yeah,
exactly. And
because you couldn't pay these parking tickets, we're going to throw you in jail.
And that's before they get convicted. This guy got convicted, and it took them 5 years to start getting people their money back.
Yeah, it still took them 5 years. And then it took them, I think, a grand total of 7 years before he actually wound up in prison over his conviction.
Right.
He got, I think, 16 years for it. 16 years.
Yeah. But what really matters is we need the military to control social media.
Yes.
That'll fix everything.
Yeah.
Well, we just need the military to control what people are thinking. If we can control what people think, none of these other things become problems. Because then people won't think the wrong things and do the wrong things and just, force the government to aggress against them. That's...
Yeah, I mean, it's... Are you a Nazi that you don't want people to have to be told exactly what they're allowed to think and say? I mean, come on.
Clearly,
don't
I'm
be
a Russian
Nazi.
agent.
Yep.
I'm a Russian agent.
You must... No, you're not a Russian agent. See, if you were saying that you should be able to think what you want, then clearly you're a Russian agent. Only Russian agents and Nazis want people to think what they want to think, rather than what we tell them to think. So
because that makes so much fucking sense.
He gazed up at the enormous face. 40 years it had taken him to learn what kind of smile was hidden underneath the dark mustache. Oh, cruel, needless misunderstanding. Oh, stubborn, self-willed exile from the loving breast. 2 gin-scented tears trickled down the sides of his nose, but it was all right. Everything was all right. His struggle was finished. He had won victory over himself. He loved Big Brother.
Winston.
George Orwell, 1984.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We just all need to love Big Brother, and then think the government has what's best for us, and just listen to everything government has to say, and we won't have Texas Educational Aid posting about CBD on Facebook. Then people complained, and the school district fired her.
Yeah.
For posting about CBD on her social media account.
CBD is not a fucking illegal drug. Okay, just so people know. Let's say that for anybody who might be listening.
It's completely legal.
CBD is federally legal. As long I like the CBD that comes from industrial hemp, right? It is federally legal as long as it has like 0.03% or less THC in it, right?
Yes.
And there's different kinds, right? There's broad spectrum and full spectrum, and then there's isolate, and the isolate has no THC in it at fucking all. No psychoactive, nothing in it. It is pure, just CBD, and that is not on any fucking schedule anywhere. CBD is federally legal. So, this lady, a special ed teacher, right?
Yeah.
So it can be assumed that some of her students might have already been on it for various medical conditions.
One Sunday evening in May 2019, Carrie Owens, a special education paraprofessional who works with disabled students at a high school in Allen, Texas, posted a graphic on her Facebook page lauding the supposed health benefits of cannabinol CBD, a non-intoxicating chemical compound derived from hemp and cannabis plants. 1 week later, she lost her job. She believes the CBD graphic was the reason. Quote, "Is CBD good for you?" read the graphic. It then answers its own question. Quote, "Well, your body has an cannabinoid system."
Yeah.
What Deerica said. It doesn't have a Zoloft or ibuprofen system. Case closed.
Yeah.
At the Times, Owens was suffering from severe migraines, which traditional treatments had failed to alleviate. She had heard positive things about CBD's healing potential and thought she'd solicit feedback about the efficiency from her Facebook friends by posting the image. When she went to work on Monday, she was called into the principal's office and told that she was being placed on administrative leave. Someone had complained about her Facebook post, she said she was told, and the school was sending her home so that they could conduct an investigation. Quote, At the time of the post, I had not used the product. I had not purchased them. I had not sold any, said Owens. A fact she says stressed repeatedly to the school officials. She also insisted that the products she was looking for information on were legal and easily available at pharmacies and gas stations across the state.
Yep.
Hell,
Grocery stores.
Yeah, at the time of her firing, CBD products were both illegal and widely available in retail outlets. More on that later. Okay, her pleading proved ineffective after a week-long investigation, during which time she was told not to contact the disabled students she had been assisting for the past 3 years or anyone else for the school. Owens was fired. Owens said the school officials told her in a face-to-face meeting that the Facebook post demonstrated bad judgment and had only served to encourage CBD use among students. In a May 17th
the next thing you know, they're going to start using aspirin and albuterol inhalers.
Yep. I mean, jazz.
They might even listen to jazz music.
Yep.
Dance with colored folk.
Yep. In a May 17 termination letter, the school district identified 2 ethics codes requirements Owens allegedly violated. Quote, a cause forbidding educators from engaging in illegal activity, and another requiring that employees, quote, shall be of good moral character.
So what they're saying is that she violated a code that says she can't engage in illegal activity by asking questions about a 100% legal, honest
product
and state level product.
That she had not taken, not purchased.
Right. She asked questions about it.
Be of good moral character. So they're assuming that people who use CBD are immoral degenerates.
Yep.
Which is, something to the tune of 2.5 million Americans.
At least.
At least. Quote, I worked there for 3 years, never had issue with my employer, Owens told Reason. Quote, it is really a surprise to me that they wouldn't try to talk to me about it or give me some kind of disciplinary action. They just fired me. The school district declined to speak to Reason on the story or even confirm that Owens was fired. However, in response to a request for records related to Owens' firing, the district did provide a copy of her termination letter, along with another letter from 1 week prior stating Owens had been placed on administrative leave. These 2 documents confirm the sudden nature of Owens' termination.
For asking about a completely legal thing, asking about it
on her social media, away from school,
her private social media.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I got fired from my social media. So.
I want to know what kind of asshole complains to somebody's employer about something like that. What kind of fucking horrible person does some shit like that?
A helicopter mom boomer type, probably a Karen. Yeah. It's who's oh my gosh.
I feel bad even saying that because my aunt's name is Karen.
But does she have the I'd like to speak to your manager haircut?
No, not really.
My ex-wife does.
She doesn't have any kids. She might if she had kids, but she never had any kids.
Owens firing rankles her. It also upsets the students she was working with. During her 3 years at Allen High School, Owens worked exclusively with a single student, Jocelyn, who was confined to a wheelchair, is nonverbal, and also has trouble writing quickly. Since 10th grade, Owens assisted her in taking notes, completing in-class assignments, and getting her from class to class. Owens was like Jocelyn's, quote, school mom, Michelle Martinez, Jocelyn's mother, says, quote, they fought just like mother and daughter, but she held Jocelyn to a high accountability. When Owens suddenly stopped showing up for work without explanation, Jocelyn was frustrated and confused, said Martinez. Normally, when Owens was going to be absent, she would text Jocelyn or her mother. Despite texting and calling, however, Martinez said she heard nothing from Owens. Martinez has heard
because
nothing
she was under a gag order to have no contact.
Yep. Martinez also heard nothing from the school. No one bothered to tell her that Owens had been let go, and it took almost 2 weeks of calling the school before someone even got back to her. Even then, it was only to inform her Owens was no longer with the school district.
Yeah, you know what this should tell people is pretty clearly.
Yeah,
this school district.
The sudden unexplained. Yeah, it fucking sucks.
Just that they do not care about special needs children at all, because anyone who knows anything about special needs kids knows you can't do things like that to them.
No, you can't just like upend their fucking IEP like that.
Yeah. And
It's not cool.
So they don't actually care about the law, they don't care about science, and they don't care about special needs kids. So the question really should be, why is anyone sending their children there?
Yeah.
Yes. The sudden, unexpected absence of Owens also came right as Jocelyn, then a high school senior, was about to take her final exams before graduation. Quote, the way Carrie knew how to help her and the way she was let go at the last minute, it caused stress on my daughter, Martinez said. Quote, when you're dealing with special needs kids, you can't just change something and not let anyone know.
Right. That's what,
Which is
what we just
absolutely
said.
True. Absolutely true.
Yeah, I mean, my one of my little brothers is autistic. He's higher functioning, but he's very definitely autistic. And if you suddenly changed his world like that, he would be frozen and unable to function for months.
Yep.
Right.
Months.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows special needs kids knows that you can't just suddenly do that. Like, I had an ex-girlfriend whose cousin was autistic and had really bonded with me, and he and I had hung out. And even when her and I split, I made sure that I just explained to him what was going on and why I wasn't going to be around. Like, we had already broken up, but I know you can't just do that to these kids. They freak if that happens. You can't do that. And they're just, this school does not care about these kids at all. Not one little bit.
Nope.
Nope.
That's how it was with my cousin Kelly too. She was she had Down syndrome and some other stuff, and she would either, if something changed like that, she would either completely freeze and shut down, or she would go into like this emotional
like acting out
tantrum, like an absolute tantrum because things had changed.
Just like a meltdown.
That was the only way. That was the only way she could deal with it.
Right. They can't process things the same way that everybody else does. Processing things for special needs kids is so much more of a burden to them. It is so much harder, and it is so much more of a battle for them to process any kind of change in their environment. And there's no fucking excuse for doing this. They weren't even legally correct to do this to her.
Yeah, they weren't. Because, I mean, and really, if she had the money to sue, and she probably doesn't, she could probably win pretty easily and prove that in no way did she violate either one of those, and she could sue because...
I think the mother of the special needs girl needs to fucking sue. I think that's where the lawsuit should come from because of what it did to her daughter, that the school did this. I think that's a better place to start because, I mean, you probably have more attorneys willing to take that one, on.
And I can almost guarantee you that whoever complained is not a parent of a special needs child. They're a parent of just some child there. There's some fucking helicopter idiotic parent who doesn't know a goddamn thing about CBD, doesn't know any of that crap.
They just see it and think marijuana.
Yeah, they have. We dealt with that with Lindsay, when she asked her previous doctor, part of the reason why she no longer has that doctor. We dealt with that with her fibromyalgia, where she had asked her doctor about CBD before we had tried it. She had asked about it, and the doctor wrote down that she was, because Lindsay was like, seriously, like, it sounds like it could really help and everything else. And the doctor was so
Let me guess, drug-seeking behavior.
Yep. Aggressive drug-seeking behavior is what was put down. Yep. Because she asked about something that does not contain tetrahydrocannabinol, is completely legal on a federal level,
and it has proven medicinal value.
Yeah, it has proven demonstrable medicinal value. Yeah, exactly. Something that legally that specifically is called out in Wisconsin state law to be allowed to be prescribed by a doctor for seizures and other neurological issues.
That's here in California. Yep. The last time I saw a doctor, she asked me if I wanted a prescription for marijuana.
Yeah.
Like, of course, which I said no because then I wouldn't be able to get a firearm and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah,
But
and I
yeah,
don't want to be on
like,
any of their fucking lists. So black markets are beautiful.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
black
but,
market
I mean-
is still cheaper here than legal. So
Think about
Yeah.
the insanity that surrounds CBD at this point and hemp in general.
it's hysteria. It's an
Yeah.
absolute hysteria. People, it's either a great man or a boogeyman.
Well,
And for
it's
for
so
anyone
divided.
who's listening, we're gonna put some links on this
Yes,
article with information about CBD. And I'm actually a sales affiliate for organic and natural CBD, broad spectrum, full spectrum, and isolates. And they're totally legal. It's derived from industrial hemp. And you can get really great products. So, but we'll put some informational articles in the description so you can learn more about it if you want to. And then at the end of those articles, there's links if you want to go like buy some to try for yourself. So yeah, those will be in there. Look for those if you want more information on this topic.
Ditto what Jericho said.
Yeah, and but I mean that's the hysteria that you see it's predictable hysteria because it's the same hysteria that got drummed up to make marijuana illegal in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's just carrying over where
They have to make it
because-
look immoral, like it's something that only degenerates do, only people who are problems to society.
Yeah, it absolutely becomes like a social programming thing about it. Like
Yeah.
either, and I hate to say it like that, but like even the people that are for CBD, like in some way, and some people that get really pushy with it. Oh, you should try it. You should try it for that. You know, every time someone's sick or injured or whatever, oh, you should try CBD, blah blah. Like, and I get it because it becomes like your great man, your go-to, your Swiss Army knife of medicine.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, it absolutely does help. But you know it shouldn't be pushed like that.
It's like
You know,
any
it's
other
not-
like
it's not snake
beneficial, medicinal, whatever. It has its uses, but it's not for everything.
Mhm.
You know?
It's
So-
yeah, and the different types that are out there are good for entirely different things.
That's
I mean,
true.
it's the same thing. Anyone who's familiar with marijuana itself knows that salvia versus indica, right? Like
Sativa.
Sativa,
Yeah,
sorry.
sativa.
They're completely different. Sativa
Yep.
and indica are completely different. Their effects are completely different, and it's because of what's actually in them. The cannabinoids that are in them are totally different.
Right.
It's the
Sativa is
same
a
thing.
stimulant. Indica is a relaxant. So they
Right.
have very, very different effects.
And these are the same cannabinoids, with the exception only of tetrahydrocannabinol. These are the same kinds of things that you find in CBD, and that's why the strains of hemp matter
Uh-huh.
for kind of CBD and the way it's processed. Because if you get one that's nothing but terpenes and doesn't have any cannabinoids in it, like the real cannabinoids in it, it might not work for you. Or if
Yeah.
you get one that has the cannabinoids in it, it might not work for you because it has the cannabinoid. It depends on what you're using it for. And
Right.
that's a
Not-
medicinal.
It's such a versatile plant, for God's sake. I mean, there's so much that can be done with the hemp plant or with the cannabis, different types of cannabis plants. So hemp is like one of the types of cannabis plants, right? Marijuana is the other, and then, but there, I mean, there's so much. Yeah. So hemp and marijuana are not even the same fucking plant. So many people think they are, and they're not.
I mean, they're the same species, but their subspecies
Yeah,
is
the-
different.
So pine
But-
and
Right.
elm are both trees, but they're
Well,
entirely
no,
different.
I mean it's even closer than that because they're literally the same species. But I will also point out to people
It's like
that
cypress and pine. It's like
oh
the
no,
difference
it's
between
even
cypress
closer.
and pine.
It's even closer than that. And the best comparison I have, if you like vegetables, you go to a grocery store and you buy vegetables. I would wager $1,000 that your favorite vegetable that you buy is in fact cabbage. They are all cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, lettuce, red cabbage. Let's see here. What else is actually cabbage? There's at least 5 or 6 other major vegetables. If you look up what their species is, They are all the same species of plant.
Brussels sprouts are cabbage.
Yes, Brussels sprouts are cabbage. Broccoli is cabbage. Broccoli and Brussels sprouts are literally the exact same species of plant. Cauliflower is another one. That is, in fact, cabbage. It's the same species. But you'll notice that their traits are completely different from one to another. Even though they're the same species, their subspecies, their variety is dramatically different. And it's the same thing with cannabis sativa, and that is THC containing, and cannabis sativa that's used for industrial hemp. They're the exact same species of plant, but that's as close as it gets. They just happen to be the same species. Genetically, yes, they can interbreed, but their traits are significantly different.
Yep. And it depends on which part of the plant you're using too. You know, it's just like, I mean, there's plants that the flowers and leaves are edible, but the roots are poison. You know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of plants. Like, if you start getting into like bushcraft and survival craft and foraging and things like that, you have to know. I mean, there are plants where the root is edible, but the leaves are poison. I mean, and vice versa. Rhubarb,
the stalks are edible only after a certain point. If you try to eat them when they're too young, they'll kill you.
Yeah.
So, and then consider nightshades, right? How many nightshades do people eat? They eat potatoes, they eat tomatoes, they eat peppers. Guess what? Those are all nightshades, direct relatives of belladonna, the deadly nightshade. They're all direct even watermelon. Watermelon's also a nightshade, fun fact.
I didn't know that.
they're all related to each other very, very, very closely.
And the problem is people don't bother to try to learn any of this. They want to make emotional decisions. You know, they want to make emotional opinions because it's just easier. I mean, honestly, it takes some fucking time, effort, and brain power to learn about shit. Emotions are so much easier than thought and effort.
Well, yeah, and that's, you know, and that's the
hard.
Thing. Yeah, it's so hard to learn things, and I want people to just tell me. I want the military to tell me what to think.
Because that's never backfired in the history of the world.
It's never gone badly. Never one time. In fact, I want the military to educate my children. We could have a youth program for them, see? And
what were we going to call this episode? Something about Goebbels.
Yeah.
Laughs and Goebbels.
Laughs and Goebbels. There we go.
We could even have awards for when they graduate, some sort of like useful tool maybe for cutting.
Like a knife.
Or a special uniform. A special uniform they can wear to show.
And because it's kind of nice martial. Yeah, because it's kind of a martial enterprise, we could maybe have some sort of like a message on the blade engraved about like honor and blood or something, and and we could come up with a symbol that maybe has really ancient roots that got used. I mean, I'm from Ireland and the Shetland Islands, which is pretty Scandinavian. So I mean, maybe like something with roots in Scandinavian artwork and things. I mean, we could
sounds familiar. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah,
but something about this sounds familiar.
Gosh, and they got to be snazzy.
Was this
uniforms.
a Law and Order episode?
Yeah.
The snazzy uniform. They got to have the tall leather boots because they're very practical and utilitarian.
Right there you go.
Yes.
And those riding pants just look sharp.
You know who we could get to design the uniforms? Actually, someone with a company with some experience in this. We could get Hugo Boss to design them. Yeah. And then they definitely in black. I'm thinking, and they definitely
trimmed in red. Maybe.
Yeah. He, maybe
silver accents. Oh, guys, they have to have silver accents.
Yes. And I've always been
fabulous.
I've always been a fan of skulls, so I think maybe a skull and crossbones, like a silver skull and crossbones.
And if you don't know who we're talking about, go drink some fucking CBD.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn it. Okay.
I will say though. Okay. They were some evil motherfuckers. They had the best uniforms going. I'm just saying.
That's because they were designed by Hugo Boss. I'm not shitting you, listeners. Google it. I'm not making that up. Hugo Boss is the reason that the Nazis were so well dressed.
Yeah. And they were well dressed. Look, they were assholes. They were pieces of shit. And they should rot in the, the trash heap of history.
But
they looked fabulous while they were fucking doing it.
They did. I still want. One on my list of dream things that I want is I am not afraid to say the Nazi, the SS motorcycle officer's leather jacket, because
that was fucking
phenomenal.
It was such a great the cut was so nice and all of that. It was well designed uniform.
It is.
It stands for everything wrong with humanity, but it fucking looked awesome.
I guess if you're going to commit mass murder, you might as well look good while doing it.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
this is in no way intended to be approval of anything those fucking assholes did.
Well, Franz, I was thinking, we are evil, yes, but do we have to look bad?
Right.
Bad? I just
think they cut a sharp figure. I'm just saying. Well,
the devil wears a suit and tie. So that's, that it's the evilest of evils are always well dressed. Yeah. But I will say, Hugo Boss designed their uniforms, and I've always kind of liked Hugo Boss as a designer. So the guy's got a good eye. And you know who built a whole hell of a lot of shit for them was Ferdinand Porsche. So
right.
Don't forget the funding from Preston Bush.
Yes.
Right.
Actually, as long as we're on that subject, I want to point out the motors that powered most of the Nazi trucks, and contrary to popular belief, the majority of the Nazi army actually moved using horses, but that the parts that didn't, the actual mechanized infantry units that used trucks, that motor, do you know where that motor came from?
It's a Henry. Was it Mercedes? Henry Ford?
Henry Ford officially, legally licensed it.
Yep.
I didn't know
that. The German army. And fun fact, the railroad that runs into Auschwitz built by an American company.
Oh. I always assumed that it was mostly German engineering, because German engineering has given us some pretty great shit over the years.
Despite itself in the case of the Nazis,
exactly. Despite itself, yeah.
That's right. Actually that's one of my favorite. I love Porsches. I've always loved Porsches. I don't give a shit that he worked within the system that he was forced to work within, because what was his alternative, right?
Right.
But his designs for tanks constantly set themselves on fire, and constantly. And my
friendly saboteur.
Micah was telling me about that not too long ago. Now I remember. Yeah, my 17-year-old's like a fucking museum docent. That kid knows more useless shit about World War II machinery than anybody else I know.
That was my principal study in college, was World War II. And
you and Micah should talk, because he's so into that shit.
But yeah, that's one of those things that was, keep in mind that all of these companies that still exist now, that are still really Volkswagen, obviously. All of these companies,
Mercedes, BMW.
Yeah, they all worked with the Nazis. There is nobody innocent there. They all worked with the Nazis.
BMW, Bavarian Motorworks.
Prior to just before World War I, Bavaria was its own country, and then it integrated itself into what? Oh, Germany.
Germany.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So, since we just talked about that subject and cannabinoids at length, I think it's safe to say that we will all fail on the HARPA, social credit scoring for gun control.
That's all I can think of right now is that lovely video from Hong Kong where they cut down one of the face scanning video cameras.
I love that video so much.
I've been following the Hong Kong protests a bit, and You know that they've started singing "Do You Hear the People Sing" from Les Mis to drown out the national anthem. And I fucking love it. That song has always given me goosebumps.
They're also using an anarchist-designed mesh network for communication.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Give me 1 sec.
Okay. So yeah, HARPA social credit scoring for gun control.
Sorry,
so yeah,
that was my renter. He just went and got himself a little piece of something, and he's home now.
Okay, yeah. HARPA, social credit scoring for gun control, question mark. Okay, so the Trump administration broke the ice on using social credit scoring technology to decide who is mentally stable enough to purchase a weapon. Like a no-fly list, a no-buy list will be based on AI analysis of social media posts.
How could that go wrong?
Wait. Like 6 months ago, didn't we talk about the AI that was live on the internet for 24 hours before they had to take it down because it had become so fucking racist?
Yeah, that was one of the Twitter bots. Yeah,
it just started like shouting racial obscenities and homophobic. Don't forget homophobic. Racist.
I have another article. I have another article saved. Just like it just came to mind. Another article saved. And it's about an AI bot trying to teach people humanity.
Oh God.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. The Trump administration is considering
using Skynet, because this is how you get Skynet.
And we deserve Skynet if that's
we do.
God, my Matrix self-projection is going to look so.
Oh yeah, I kind of like look forward to the Matrix because I can make myself thin and really beautiful.
Free.
Yeah, lots of money, you know.
I just standing on the corner going, "You all deserve this. Every last one of you."
I'm gonna be like Cypher, the guy sitting there munching on a steak. I don't want to know nothing. Put me back in there. I want to be rich.
If I'm rich and I get a great steak and I get laid by you,
yeah.
Fuck.
There you go. The Trump administration is considering a proposal that would use Google, Amazon, and Apple to collect data on users who exhibit characteristics of mental illness. Oh, shit.
Oh, my God. They're going to fucking go through my Amazon orders list? I'm fucked. I'm so screwed.
I just have 16 dogs, I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who have interesting names.
The Trump administration is considering a proposal that would use Google, Amazon, and Apple to collect data on users who exhibit characteristics of mental illness that could lead to violent behavior. The proposal is part of an initiative to create a Health Advanced Research Projects Agency, that is HARPA, which would be located inside the Health and Human Services Department, the report notes, citing sources inside the administration. The news agency would have a separate budget, and the president would be responsible for appointing its director.
So wait, my book that's published on Amazon that is titled, literally, Think for Yourself. This is going to end up in my fucking social score as a negative strike against me.
Oh might as well change your name to Winston. All right, HARPA would take after Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, or DARPA, which serves as the research arm for the Pentagon. Remember, we talked about DARPA earlier. They're the ones that are going to be trying to control the flow of fake information.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we got DARPA and HARPA. Yeah. The idea was first crafted in 2017, but has since gotten a renewed push after a mass shooting killed 31 people in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio in August.
This is starting to sound like how the Middle Eastern people talk in Team America World Police. Sherpa, sherpa, derpa, derpa.
Durka, durka, Muhammad Allah Jihad.
Harpa, darpa, harpa, darpa.
All right. The Suzanne Wright Foundation approached the president recently and proposed the agency include a project called Stopping Aberrant Fatal Events by Helping Overcome Mental Extremes, or Safe Home. The report notes, citing two people.
Really stretching for a fucking
for an acronym.
Yeah, well, you gotta remember the U.S. Patriot Act. Same thing. It's an acronym.
is what it is. But
President Donald Trump, who has a close relationship with Bob Wright, who founded the foundation after his wife died of cancer. Wright was a former chair of NBC and occupied the position while the president hosted The Apprentice. Okay. HARPA would develop quote breakthrough technologies with a high specificity. I cannot
specificity.
I cannot
specificity.
I cannot
That's
speak.
okay.
Breakthrough technologies with high. What Andrew said.
Lay off the CBD, you fucking degenerate.
and sensitive for early diagnosis of neuropsychiatric violence, according to the copy of the proposal.
Nuclear proliferation.
Nuclear, get it right.
It would also include real-time data analytics. It is needed to achieve such an accurate diagnosis. The document lists several technologies that would be employed to help collect information, including Apple Watches, Amazon Echo, and Google Home. Jeffrey Ling, the lead scientific advisor on HARPA, told reporters Thursday the plan would require enormous amounts of data and, quote, scientific rigor.
This is why, like we said, was it last episode or the one before? You will never see someone like me, my husband, like Andrew, somebody who's been involved in these deep levels of government. You will never see us have that shit in our home, like the Amazon Echo or, Alexa or whatever the fuck any of these things are. The smart home bullshit. Nope. Yeah, that's not happening in my house.
I mean, I personally, I think this sounds like a great idea. And in no possible way could this ever go wrong.
I, for one, welcome my robot overlords and hope to serve them.
I am patriotic and I love Big Brother, and
nicely done. Well played, Andrew. Well played.
It's fucking crazy shit.
I mean, our most libertarian president ever.
And let's one more quick bonus. Let's not forget that the no-fly list was just ruled unconstitutional.
Yeah, because there are legitimately 3-year-olds who have wound up on no-fly lists. There's that story, that guy who went to fly with his toddler and then was told he couldn't get on the plane, or he could get on the plane, but his toddler couldn't because his toddler was on the no-fly list.
Mm-hmm.
But we can completely trust government. Yeah, we can totally trust government to decide who should and shouldn't have a gun, because after all, that's how the Second Amendment reads, right?
Just as we can trust government to decide what is real news or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like our founding fathers absolutely sat down and wrote a thing that specifically said, do not ever let this happen.
Not just a thing. Every fucking thing they ever wrote says, do not let this shit happen. Like almost every document we have from them says, don't let this shit happen.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I mean, if you look back at the historical documents from the arguments in the 1780s about the Bill of Rights, what you will see is that the largest debate wasn't whether or not the Second Amendment should, if it exists, should say that, the argument wasn't should citizens have the right to own firearms. The debate was whether or not it even needed to be said.
Right. Because it was so fucking obvious. Because back then, like weapons of war, the exact same weapons governments had were in the hands of private citizens, right down to battleships. Essentially, when you get into the history of privateers.
That's why I laugh so hard at the Marine Corps anthem, because they go to the shores of Tripoli in it, and the people who stopped the Tripoli pirates were not American Marines. The people who stopped the Tripoli pirates were privateers. They were private citizens who owned massive gunboats and huge armies who went there at the request of the United States government. It wasn't a prepaid, like a contracted military. It was privately owned.
Basically, they were heavily armed merchant ships that contracted themselves to the government to work as government agents, as privateers. And then when those contracts dried up, most of them turned to piracy themselves.
Well, yeah, they did ultimately, but that was largely the British, but with Tripoli, the Tripoli pirates, that was so the Barbary pirates, right? The shores of Tripoli, that's where that line comes from. They were preying on a lot of American shipping. A lot of everybody's shipping, realistically, but especially American shipping. So the United States government contracted a bunch of people who owned multi-cannon tiered warships.
Right.
Private
citizens. Yeah.
And said, hey, could you guys go fight them until they all stay home in their harbor? And when they do, we'll send you a bunch of professional Marines to ride on your ships with you, who will then fight them on the ground.
Like hand to hand. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's what happened. So yes, while the Marines fought at Tripoli, ultimately the stop to the piracy in Tripoli was the result of privately owned warships, which is also why I laugh when people go, oh, well, our founding fathers never envisioned private citizens owning weapons of war. They literally planned on that being the case.
That was the case at the time they wrote that, and they wanted it to stay the fucking case.
Yeah, that's why letters of marque are a thing authorized in the Constitution, is because the idea of a letter of marque is it's a letter.
That's the contract for a privateer to function as part of the government.
Right, for a private military. That's what it's for. It's for a private military operation.
Right.
Oh, but they could never envision when the civilian... No, that's absolutely what they envisioned.
Again, this is people who don't fucking know history.
Because they went...
the people that control education control history.
Yep.
Right?
But like, I went to public school and I know all this fucking history, but that's because I cared enough to fucking look into it.
And you're an alien robot wizard, so...
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean... my parents did tell me that I'm adopted, so there's always the chance.
Yeah. And that's why you're on the HARPA list. Congratulations.
Yep. Thanks.
Yep. I think we're all, not only are we all, but I guarantee you all of our listeners are in fact also on that list.
I mean, if you really think about that, the HARPA and the DARPA list that we talked about tonight, controlling media, controlling firearms, right? If you control the firearms, you control the people's ability to fight back, to resist, to stand up for themselves. And if you control the media, you control the narrative, the social warmongering. You control people's thoughts, you control their ideas, and you can control everything else. Right? So these two programs alone control people's minds and their ability to fight.
Yep. That's like, not Orwellian at all. That's not fucking massively dystopian.
If you don't have the ability to resist and you don't have the ability to think for yourself, what are you?
You're fucking chattel.
Yeah, that's and meanwhile,
you're fodder.
In Hong Kong,
you're fucking fodder.
Yeah, you're tax cattle essentially.
Yeah, and as we're talking about this in the land of the free. In Hong Kong, they're saying...
Written in SpongeBob font.
Yeah. In Hong Kong, they're telling Americans, please never give up your right to arms.
Right.
Ever. And they are cutting down the equipment that's being used for the social credit score stuff. They are rioting over that.
Millions of people in Hong Kong.
The size
1.7 I think was the last number that I saw.
Yeah, the size of these
7 million people
protests
at one time.
Yeah, the size of these protests is just, I mean, it's amazing. It's stunning to see.
It's far larger than the Yellow Vest.
Yeah.
And it is a sea of people, and if you watch some of the videos that the protesters themselves shot, they are not afraid to go body to body with those fucking cops either. Like they are going in there and like ripping their helmets off and punching them in the face.
Right.
and that they are not afraid.
And watch some of the interviews of these students and the things that they're saying. And, you know, they're revolutionaries. They are. And I don't know how people in the States can look at what's going on in Hong Kong and be rooting for the protesters, which almost everybody is, and not realize that we are coming full circle back around. We're like 3/4 of the way around the circle. We're back into authoritarian dystopian bullshit, and that's going to have to be us in the next 25 years.
Yeah.
If we don't do something about it now.
Well, yeah, look at that meme that I made that I threw up on my Facebook where I pointed out, I actually quoted a boomer from a set of pictures from the Hong Kong protests. One, it's a bunch of protesters in Hong Kong holding up signs that in English and Chinese say "Stop killing us."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then the next picture is all of the armored infantry fighting vehicles they sent against the protesters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's those two pictures. And he said, and I quote, "When you need to start sending armored vehicles against protesters who are just asking you to stop killing them, your ideology has failed."
Yep.
And I quoted that and then juxtaposed those two pictures from Hong Kong with two pictures from Ferguson. The first one is the armored infantry fighting vehicle that they sent against the protesters.
Yeah.
And the second picture,
a powerful image.
Yeah, and the second picture is a guy from Ferguson holding a sign that says exactly the same thing to the letter. Stop killing us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm just, refusing to obey nonsensical bullshit laws is how this country was formed in the first place.
Yeah, that was kind of the whole fucking idea of the United States of America.
That is the principle. Yeah, that is the founding ideals of America was we don't want to have to acquiesce to the ruling class and what they want and what they think. We don't want to have to only say what they want us to say. We don't want to have to deal with them taking anything they want from us and throwing us in jail for any reason that they choose. We don't want to have to be subject to them.
Right. Yeah. And then look at how that's ended up.
Yeah.
Because and that's the thing, government always ends up this way. No matter how good your intentions are at the beginning, it always fucking ends up like this.
Absolutely. That's the key point right there, Derek. And we got two more, one quick one and then a long one. I want to get to this positive one first.
Oh yeah, because it's like 11:15.
Before we get to the other one, because the other one is going to fuck me up all night long. It's a head thing. All right. We got a positive Florida man story.
Oh.
Florida man.
Florida man buys more than 100 generators to send to the Bahamas.
Nice.
Jacksonville, Florida. One Florida man's random act of fucking stupid pop-up ads. One Florida man's random act of kindness will go a long way for Bahamian residents who lost power due to Hurricane Dorian. According to Facebook, that's what I said.
Dorian.
According to Facebook,
Duran.
According to Facebook post by Alex Sprague of Jacksonville, Florida, he went to the local Costco to buy a generator. While there, he witnessed a man buying more than 100 generators along with food to send to the Bahamas. Quote, "All I could do was shake the man's hand and thank him. There are still good people in the world." Sprague said the generators were valued at $450 each.
That's a lot of fucking money.
$450, and he bought how many?
More than 100.
It's $45,000.
So he probably dropped 50 G's on the generator, and then more money on food and stuff.
And then more money to ship everything.
Well, without government, who would take care of people after natural disaster? You know what? We would, because that's who does it the most efficiently now. Is each other. I mean, this guy didn't have to do that. He had no obligation to these people, but he was looked at it and said, "Oh my God, somebody needs to help these people. I'm somebody," and he did it.
And I have the means to do it, and I'm gonna do it. Yeah.
So he just did it. You don't need government to take care of people. You just need people who give a shit.
Yeah.
Hey,
And the more
Cajun...
government you have, the less people give a shit because
Yep.
they expect the government to do it.
Yep. I had a story come up on my Facebook memories the other day from 2 years ago. I think it was Marie that went through Houston, and some guys from the Cajun Navy were there, and they were using a swamp boat to try and rescue people. And the officer threatened to arrest them because their boat was not registered.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. They were literally saving people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and and the cops' response is, "Hey, you didn't pay us blood money to be allowed to operate that boat, so I'm going to arrest you so that these people that you're saving wind up dying instead of getting saved."
Yeah, quit helping us without paying us to help us.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh. Yep. Government hates self-sufficient people.
They do.
Okay, and the last article, because this is the one that's going to fuck with my head all night. Trump-China tariffs headed for rates comparable to Smoot-Hawley levies that worsened the Great Depression.
How could that ever go badly?
Yeah.
And
you know, our local library is named after that Smoot asshole. Yeah. That shit irritates me every time I see it.
So this is from last week. It's from August 31st. This is before the tariffs went into effect. So the Trump administration is scheduled to raise tariffs on Chinese imports on Sunday to rates not seen since the notorious Smoot-Hawley or Holloway tariffs enacted in the 1930s. The tariffs did not start the Great Depression, which began a year earlier, but they are widely believed to economists to have worsened the economic troubles on the next decade.
Yeah, so you're having trouble feeding your nation because of this massive fucking drought. So why don't you make it more fucking expensive for people to get food from other nations?
Especially in a nation that the United States currently imports about 52% of the stuff that it eats, that it consumes.
Right.
And that's not including like all the manufacturing stuff and appliances and blah blah blah. No, 52% of the food that the U.S. consumes is imported.
Right. Especially vegans. Man, their food has to come from so far away.
So, quote, it's a very fair comparison as far as the percentage of the tariffs on Chinese imports alone is concerned, said Willis Orr, a trade policy advisor and assistant U.S. trade representative during the George H.W. Bush administration. Quote, this is indeed a targeted Smoot-Hawley action aimed squarely at China. Like 1930, the U.S. is seeking to keep Chinese imports out, pure and simple. Should the economy take a hit, the tariffs will make the blow that much worse, or said, quote, Smoot-Hawley dramatically slowed down economic activity, not unlike if we go into a recession and Trump keeps tariffs on or ratchets them up even further.
And you know what I don't get? People support this shit. And I'm like, China isn't paying the tariffs. The consumer pays the fucking tariff.
Yeah, they don't
realize that.
There's an article that came out today or yesterday that came out that said in 2020 the tariffs will cost the average American family an additional $2,000 in 2020.
Oh yeah, because I have way more than that for wiggle room in my budget. I don't know about you guys. But...
Oh yeah, I mean I can totally just I regularly just like take a pile of like $100 bills and just set fire to them.
I like
I shit that like
an extra
right
extra
out of my
80.
ass.
I mean, who has extra $180 a month?
Yeah.
So the Trump administration currently has 25% tariffs on $250 billion worth of goods imported from China. On Sunday, 15% tariffs on an additional 300% worth of goods will go into effect. On October 1st, the 25% tariffs will raise to 30%, with many exceptions, or with exceptions for some products, mainly consumer electronics. On December 15th, those exceptions will expire, and that rate will become 30% across the board.
How does the economics?
Yeah, that's comparable to rates under Smoot-Hawley, economists and trade policy experts say. The key difference is that Smoot-Hawley covered all imports, while the Trump one focuses on China exclusively. but you have to go back to Smoot-Hawley to find tariffs as comprehensive as Trump is attempting.
And weren't we just talking about like distribution warehouses in Tijuana, and then the imports come from Mexico?
Yep, they ship it to Mexico and then bring it in. But here's the thing too, is I've pointed this out to so many of these, but China doesn't play fair types. Okay, what you're saying is, by arguing that tariffs are good because China isn't playing fair, is that because the United States is regulating their own market harder than a communist nation.
Yeah.
Because of that, we should continue to regulate even further to try and fix the disparity.
I had that conversation with someone the other day. There was an article about some company leaving China due to the tariffs. And the person was like, "Oh, look, see, they're working. The companies are leaving China." I said, "Yeah, and they're going to Bangladesh. They're going to Pakistan and Thailand and Hong Kong. They're not coming to the U.S.
Yeah, they're going to other third world countries.
Not coming to the U.S. because the policies that are in effect under the U.S. government have worsened since these companies left."
And you know what? There is one nation on this planet that effectively, probably 98% effectively, has plugged every hole in their fucking market. And do you know what nation that is? That is North Korea.
I didn't say North Korea.
Myanmar is also one.
Right. Okay. So these heavily authoritarian,
communist,
North Korea
live in grinding fucking poverty.
Myanmar not only is like an economic shithole, but there's like civil war happening and there's like genocide happening. Like Myanmar is really, really bad right now. It's
and for anybody who doesn't know, Myanmar used to be Burma.
Yeah, it's worse. It's worse. It's worse than Yemen. Like it's literally worse than Yemen right now.
Burma's, I mean, to be fair, Burma was never necessarily great. The best it ever had it was, and this says a lot about how bad it was, when it was a colony of Britain.
Yeah.
Like, that was the best that Burma ever had.
Like, this is a nation like Rambo movies are made about, okay? If you've seen, like, the Rambo movies, all right?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, that kind of shit.
Yeah, quote, the jury is completely out that their current actions and threatened actions will do anything to help U.S. consumers. Quite the contrary. History is repeating itself, Orr said. The comparison is a bit tricky to make because Smoot-Hawley did not set specific rates. It was primarily meant to protect U.S. agriculture and sent vary and levied based on the volume and weight of imported goods. In 1998, study published in the Review of Economics and Statistics put the average rate at 21% when the tariffs were first enacted. They rose to 25% at its height in 1931. The U.S. is already at 25%, and they want to go to 30%.
And think about this. This isn't an academic exercise, right? This isn't something where we're theorizing what might happen to the economy as a result. We know because it's been done before, and it was a complete disaster.
And what kills me is that at the same time they're doing this, they're pushing for things like minimum wage hikes and shit like that make American goods even more fucking expensive.
It's an absolute rock and a hard place.
Yeah. Yeah, the consumer just loses no matter fucking what. Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, we're headed towards hyperinflation at this rate because this is a runaway train that there's no fucking keeping up with. Mm-hmm. You know, they're trying to balance the scale this way, and then, oh shit, we got to balance it more this. And it never fucking works. And you end up with wheelbarrows full of fucking cash to buy a loaf of bread.
My recommendation to everybody is always invest in precious metals, cryptocurrency, and my personal favorite precious metals, which are steel, aluminum, lead, copper, and brass.
Lead, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Invest in that because you're going to need it.
And prep. For God's fucking sake, do what you can to get off the grid, to be more self-sufficient. Get your food stores, plant your fucking garden, plant your orchard. I mean, that's what we're doing, right? I got the orchard in. We just put the solar panels in. You know, I got a bunch of food in the basement. And
you have a generator. We talked about that before.
Yeah, we have a generator. Yeah. You know, I mean, do what you can to put yourself above this to make sure that this has less impact on you than it would have on somebody entirely dependent on the system and the grid and
it's
supply lines.
It's already having negative effects on the economy. I mean, we've covered those before, but like there have been reports out of like Texas where the new homes that's fallen off like 15-20% because of the imports on products that are used in the new home construction. Automotive. Like how many U.S. automotive manufacturers are there?
Not many anymore.
Not many.
There's not many factories. They've all
right
been driven
now,
overseas by fucking trade unions.
Yeah, the biggest auto manufacturing plants in the U.S. are one owned by Ford, two owned by Chrysler, one owned by GM, one owned by Subaru, and the largest is actually owned by Toyota.
I think there's
a Japanese company.
Yeah, like I think there's a Kia, or not a Kia, a Subaru one in like Kentucky, and a few others, and like they're not U.S. owned companies.
Yeah, Subaru and Toyota are two of the biggest, and the funniest part about them is they're almost zero connection to the outside grid because their water and their electricity is all generated on site. They're almost all solar and wind. And it's all generated on site. They have nothing to do with the outside world as far as running that factory goes.
And a ton of it is automated now, so they're not even producing like a shitload of jobs.
Yeah, I actually looked it up the other day on a whim because I was arguing with someone on Wolf about it. There's like 2 U.S. cell phone manufacturers. I haven't heard of either phone. I haven't heard of either company, and they all use components that come from overseas. Laptops. There was 1 or 2 that was made in the U.S. And neither of them are U.S. owned companies, and they also use components from overseas.
And people view this as a negative thing, and I don't. I mean, the United States is the wealthiest nation the face of this planet has ever fucking seen.
Oh yeah,
right. And everybody that we do business with is lifted up. Everybody fucking wins and benefits when they do business with U.S. citizens and companies in the United States, until you start having jackasses doing shit like tariffs and all these protectionist fucking government policies. And not only does it hurt the consumers here in the U.S., but it hurts people in all these third world nations who had finally an economy that was growing, that people were able to support their families and things like that.
Well, yeah, and the irony is that historically, when you look at from a historical perspective, you look at and talk about various civilizations and like empires getting rich, you judge that by the fact, like with Rome, that all of a sudden they were importing goods from as far away as China and from all over Africa and all over, Northern Europe and Russia. And like the fact that they were importing so much is the indicator of their wealth that tells you that they were doing well.
But the thing that's interesting about the U.S. and the U.S.'s wealth is built a bit less on conquest than like Rome was or stuff. The U.S.'s wealth was largely built on markets, on how free the markets used to be. That's how America got rich, was how free the market in America used to be. And we have little remnants of that now that people are still able to, every once in a while create some wealth through and stuff. But they keep restricting that. And that's not going to be the case anymore. America's not going to be wealthy any longer.
Yeah. No.
It's just come to mind. Like when this first started, there was an article about lobstermen being really, really hurt by the tariffs because lobsters aren't as big a thing here in the U.S. as they are overseas, and executives and 5-star restaurants in China and whatnot. They were large consumers of U.S. lobster.
Right.
And they
Americans prefer crab, really, if you get down to it.
And the tariffs were imposed, and they largely stopped buying U.S. lobster and were buying from other places. And one of the people on this article, one of the people on the comments on Facebook on it, they said something to the effect of, "Okay, cool, now I can finally afford a lobster dinner." No, you jackass, it's not, because it's not profitable for them to stay in business.
Yeah,
right.
You're
so
just not going to exist anymore.
Right. All the U.S. lobster guys, they're not in business anymore. So now your lobster is imported.
Yes.
And that includes these tariffs, and your lobster is even more fucking expensive now.
Yeah, you cannot return U.S. jobs into an environment that is worse than what caused them to leave.
Yeah.
And we are. The U.S. economy, the regulations, the taxes, the fees, the fines, the bureaucracy, the red tape, the bullshit, it's worse now than what caused companies to go overseas.
Right.
Like those jobs are simply not coming back to the U.S. Period.
It's like a doctor has a fucking patient that has low oxygen levels, so their solution is to fucking strangle the patient. Like, that's
breathe deeper, breathe harder.
Yeah,
that'll help.
With pressing on their fucking trachea the whole time. Yeah, I mean that's what this looks like to me.
Oh, you got COPD? Just take deep breaths. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, just breathe harder.
Here, have a cigarette.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. It's just you have asthma, well, we'll teach you to learn how to breathe with less air. Right. Rather than worrying about allowing you to breathe.
Oh yeah,
right.
You have asthma. Here, hop on this treadmill. that'll teach you to breathe deeply.
Yeah, we just need to teach you how to breathe deeply.
Yeah,
it's absurd, but that's the logic behind these idiots that support these tariffs and things and think that somehow, even though never in the history of the United States has it ever helped the economy even once. Maybe this time, maybe this time, maybe this time, maybe this time.
Bro, you just don't understand. It's 462D chess, man.
Yeah, we're all gonna get free suppressors. We're all gonna get free suppressors when China find the caves.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, it's the same people that are championing this are the same people that are saying build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. You know, Trump's wall is only 200 miles long, right?
I'm not a mathematician.
What, $1 billion or some shit?
200 miles long. He wants to rebuild 100 miles and then build 200 miles. So a total of 300 miles of a 1,200 mile long border.
I'm not a mathematician.
That's like not even a quarter.
But I feel like 200 miles is less than the total length of the border.
Yeah,
just a little bit. Just a little bit, and like the wall that was built in New Mexico on that ranch, right? it's like 100 miles off the border.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in the middle of nowhere. It's just this wall in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and it was privately funded. It wasn't even public money. It was privately funded and built on privately owned land.
Yeah,
and they still could only afford to build one of 4 parts.
Yeah.
That'll keep them darn illegals out if we just have this section of wall that...
God, I can't wait to be droned.
Like, how is this shit so expensive? That's my question. Like, we put in I forget what the footage was, like aluminum fencing in the back that we then had to put deer net on because the dogs could fucking bend the bars and get out. And that cost us like $3,500.
It's because the U.S. uses largely union workers.
Mm.
And you know what that means with overpaying, and you have to pay for the bureaucracy and the red tape and
right.
all that other stuff. But then they also have to pay for like their health care and this and that and that.
And because there's tariffs on the imported raw goods.
You know what made me laugh? You know what made me laugh the other day is the local laborers union has started advertising because since Wisconsin is a right to work state, you don't have to join.
Right.
And so they've started advertising with all of the great benefits of working for the union as opposed to doing construction work on your own, without a union. And the one guy, he goes, well, you could be right across the street and you're making, I'm making, double, quadruple what you are for the exact same job. And they say it like that's a good thing. And immediately what I hear is, well, if you hire me, it's going to cost you double, quadruple as much as it does to hire that other guy for the same job. And
oh, man.
And not one time do they say, well, see, because we work for the union, we're held to higher standards. It's all, we get to do exactly the same work that you do, but we get paid more.
Right.
And I'm like, which means it's more expensive.
Right. But that's why they want everybody to join, because
and then on top of that,
they can't handle competition.
On top of that, they still lose 40% of their paycheck to taxes. And then on top of that, they lose union dues.
Yep.
And then on top of that, if one person decides to go on strike, everybody has to go on strike.
Yep.
Yes.
So then they're losing their paycheck for that period of time too.
Yep. Congratulations, jackasses! You played yourself.
Yeah. No one, and that's just it. That's why unions fought so hard for Wisconsin when it went right to work a few years ago. That's why they fought so hard against it, is because historically every single state that's happened in, the unions die.
As they should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they can't possibly compete. It's one thing if you could honestly say, well, you're hiring the union and paying more for the union because we hold our workers to a higher standard than you get from just Joe Blow off the street.
We have better insurance and we have better certifications and
and we take
and we
care
invest
of all of
in
that
the workforce and we train new people and but
the unions can't say that. They can't say that because they've never worried about it. And until Wisconsin, and it's been, what, 5 years, less than 5 years that we've been right to work, until we became right to work, you had no choice but to join the union, which means they didn't have any competition. They didn't have to care. Now suddenly they have to care. And instead of going, hey, we need to improve the quality of our workforce to justify the increased cost, they're going, hey, we need to tell everybody, but you'll make so much more money so that everyone will just willingly join us.
Right. Right. And in that way, we again have no fucking competition. Yep. And then the consumer's stuck with the higher bill.
Yeah, and the consumer gets stuck with the higher bill. And yet all of these megatards that are out there don't seem to understand that that's the entire reason why all of this work moved to other countries.
Yeah.
Because of that there.
That's why America's been hemorrhaging jobs. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Hashtag make Darwin great again.
Yeah.
Or make Darwin relevant again. Or
unfortunately, I mean, the reality is that Darwinism is going to happen in the U.S. after the impending economic collapse, because
this is why we prep.
Yeah, and that is why so many anarchists in particular are preppers, because we all realize it's coming down the fucking line here, and it's not going to be pretty, because you're going to have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in the streets demanding things from everyone else because they've never actually had to work for anything and are incapable of doing so.
Right. Yeah.
So we just need to all daddy government.
Yeah.
Daddy government, nanny state, and to
and
DARPA,
this is
Uncle Art and Uncle HARPA.
This is, I mean, this is collectivism. This is socialism. If you're in a union, you're socialist.
Yep.
So.
God, their faces get so red and so upset when you say shit like that.
I know.
It's socialist.
It triggers the shit out of them.
Oh, my favorite is to go, wait, so you're saying, well, you're not socialist because we democratically elect the people that are in charge. Oh, so you're saying that it's a democratically elected workers' party?
Yeah. That doesn't sound familiar or anything.
Yeah, go vote Bernie, you fucking assholes.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing new under the sun. Whatever you want, however you want to organize society, Go look for examples of that in history. Please, I fucking beg you. There's nothing new under the sun, for God's sake. Just fucking look through history for examples of what you want to do.
You know, the Mayans.
I have to throw this out there because I just mentioned his name now. Bernie Sanders. You guys see the article about him? He said that in order to combat climate change, we need to control the population in third world countries.
Yeah.
Well, what a surprise that Mr. voted for every single war spending bill in history would be all for population control in third world countries that America's already bombing.
Yeah.
That's
well, but I gotta go, guys. We're getting late here. And Andrew, if you want to take advantage of that buy one get one free on the CBD, the links are like on my Facebook page, but you have like 17 minutes.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
All right. Go look.
As we're done, I'll talk to her about it.
Yep. All right. Go talk to her because we are done, and we will catch you on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.